طيب, the next subject afterwards, he says after al-ihsan, he says الدرس السادس شروط الصلاة. شروط الصلاة, the conditions of the salah. He says وهي 9. The conditions of the salah are 9. And as you see, all of what's mentioned before is foundation, principles, and it's matters of belief. But it's also, since this is an important lesson for every Muslim, it's something that has to be present in the heart for the salah, for the acts of worship to be established. So it's he says شروط الصلاة, it's 9 conditions for the salah. The conditions, as a definition of shurut, and shurut is the plural of shart, is that it's a condition. That means it's not part of the action itself, and it's something that has to be done for the act to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if the condition is not meant, that means it's not met. That means the action itself is not to be fulfilled, is not to be accepted. And that's why they define a shart in the usul and others is ما يلزم من عدمه العدم. That means if it's not there, then there's no action. It's a condition. And as they say, من عدمه وجود ولا عدم. So if the tahara, for example, the purification, it has to be there for the salah to be valid. So if it's not there, if there's no purification, there's no salah. And ولا يلزم من وجوده وجود ولا عدم. And if a person is in purification, he doesn't have to make salah. See the difference? So this is the definition as the ulama they define a shart, which is ما يلزم من عدمه العدم. If it's not there, then there's no action because it's a condition. But if it's there, it doesn't mean that the person has to make the salah, as for example the tahara or the purification. So it's not part of the action, but it's something that is from something else that has as a condition for the action, different than the pillar of the salah, for example. And there's so many different subjects that I talked about the subject of the shurut. But he says here it's 9: al-Islam, wal-aql, wal-tamyiz, wa-raf' al-hadath, wa-izalat al-najas, wa-satr al-awra, wa-dukhul al-waqt, wa-istiqbal al-qibla, wa-niyya. 9 conditions for the salah. The first one is al-Islam. Al-Islam. So the shart of al-Islam is always present in any act of worship, that a condition for the deed to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is for a person to be a Muslim. And this is shart صحة and shart also wujub. That means it's a condition for the deed to be valid, and it's a condition that the deed is an obligation, even though the disbelievers, it's obligated upon them to fulfill these acts, but they need to be in the state of al-Islam first. So al-Islam, and that's why the murtad or the disbeliever, they have to be in the state of al-Islam for them to make salah. Wal-aql, or reason or intellect, which is basically what's sanity. If a person is insane, that means they're not responsible for their actions. So it's a condition for the deed to be valid, that has to be aql. And if a person is in state of coma or something like this, that means he lost his intellect, he's lost his sanity. That means the actions are not accepted by him. So al-aql is a condition. What tamyiz? Tamyiz is the ability to differentiate between things. And that's why the وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, separate on this day, O you mujrimun, or you rebellious ones, the disbelievers, meaning be separated from the believers. So at-tamyiz is the ability to differentiate between things, which is the age that starts from 7 or so. It doesn't have to be exact, but it's something that the child is able to recognize that this is a mandatory action, this is salah. That means he needs to observe it in the proper way and things like this, and what breaks the salah and what validates it. So, and this is something, or it's an age that comes before the age of puberty. And that's why at tamyiz, or the age of 7 or so, this is a condition for the salah to be accepted, and not a condition of obligation. So there is always two types of conditions or shurut. There is shurut al-wujub and there is shurut al-sihha. Shurut al-wujub, the conditions of obligation, that means the age of puberty. Before the age of puberty, it's not an obligation. But a tamiz is shartu sihha. That means if a person is 7 years old and he prayed, the prayer is accepted, he get rewards for it, his parents get rewards for it, but it's not obligatory upon him. So this is a tamiz. And then it says رفع الحدث. And رفع الحدث, the not to be in state of hadath. Al-hadath is the incident, literally, but it refers to what breaks the wudu, or breaks the tahara. If a person, and we talked about al-hadath before, so it's different than a najas, which is the one that is mentioned afterwards. So when you say al-hadath, that means something happened that would break the wudu of the person. So this is basically, they call it something based on a ruling, not something physical. So that's why when they call it an najasa al-hukmiyya, or the impurity that is based on a ruling, not necessarily something that is physical. So you cannot look at a person and say that he's committed hadath, or he's in state of hadath, but rather something happened that broke his state of purification. So to relieve oneself from that state is a condition. So for the salah to be established, the person has to have the state of wudu. He has to be in the state of wudu. He has to make wudu to lift his status of not being in state of hadath to be in state of tahara. And that's why the next one, وَإِزَالَةُ النَّجَاسَةِ, and to remove the najasa, to remove a najasa. As we talked about that in fiqh before, that the two things that has to be established before the salah, for the salah to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that the person has to be pure from a najasa, be pure in his body, in his clothing, and the spot that he prays on from any impurity. And the second thing is to be in state of tahara or purification by making wudu or making ghusl, or what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded. So that's why رفع الحدث وإزالة النجاسة. For a person to make salah, it's a condition, of course. And إزالة النجاسة, it's a condition if a person is not knowing and he prayed, the salah is valid. If he is during the salah and he discovers a najasa or impurity, if he moves it right away and he continues, the salah is valid. But if he's not able to remove it, then he has to leave the salah to purify oneself. So izalatul najasa, and we're talking about that brief, inshallah. وستر العورة, to cover the awrah, to cover what obligated to be covered in the salah, and it's for men from the navel to the knees, and to put something on their shoulders. And for the women, it's their body except the face and the palm of the hand. And some said the face only, and the palm of the hand is to be covered under the khimar also. So the face is sufficient for the women, and the rest is to be covered by the garment. So she doesn't have to wear gloves, she doesn't have to wear socks unless the garment is not too long to cover the foot, and that is when she's standing. So the foot is covered when she's standing. When she's in sujood, the bottom of the foot it's okay to show. But while standing, it has to be covered. So only the face is to be shown in the salah. And if there are strange men around, then she can cover her face. وَسَتْرُ الْعَوْرَةِ, and to cover the awrah for both men and women. وَدُخُولُ الْوَقْتِ, and for the time to enter, the time of the salah. This is a condition for the salah to be valid and to be as an obligation also, is that the Salatul Dhuhr cannot be prayed before the adhan. The same thing for Salatul Asr. So it's a condition for the salah, is that the time enters. And it's a shart because it's not the action itself, it's a condition to it. وَاسْتَقْبَالُ الْقِبْلَةِ, and to face the qibla, to face the qibla before making the takbirah of the salah and throughout the salah. So one of the things about the conditions is that it has to continue to be with the person till he finishes the salah. So the same thing with covering the awrah, the same thing with the purifying oneself. So here istiqbal al-qibla, to face the qibla. For the fard, the salah, it's a must. And again, it's to the ones of one's best ability. If a person is a traveler and he put ijtihad, he makes effort to find where's the Qibla. If he prays wrong, after putting the effort, the salah is valid. But if he doesn't put the effort, even if he is resident in a place, then the salah is not valid. So he has to think, to see where the directions are, to ask the people. But facing the Qibla, of course, is one of the conditions of the salah. And some small things, it's not small, of course, but some people, they might do that breaks their salah without knowing when they turn away from the Qibla. If someone in salah, for example, or sometimes some of the children, they do this, behind them is someone coming behind them, so they turn with their body completely to look at the one that is coming behind. That breaks the salah because they did not face the Qibla even for a short period of time. Or someone, standing and he does something that makes him face other than the Qibla. So istiqbal Qibla from the beginning to the end of the salah. And the 9th condition is a niyyah, the intention. The intention that a person is making salah, and the intention that a person is making a whatever specific salah that he's praying, especially if it's fard. Fard or sunnah, ratiba, a specific sunnah, the intention has to be there. And the intention is in the heart, and there's no utterness of anything. So this is brief, the 9 conditions of the salah. And of course, there's details to these conditions. And some evidences and things of that nature, and some masail. But we'll stop here. Again, I entered the lecture late, so we'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala. Maybe we can talk about it in more brief next time. And the next lesson, inshallah ta'ala, is the Quran session, inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Muhammad wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.